they were lost. At least it seemed that way to the guards who were escorting the princess on this journey. Time had passed, and no one knew how long they had been walking through this endless rocky terrain. It seemed like ages ago they had anchored the ship outside the border of the Valley of Giants and prepared to make this journey. Though no one mentioned it, the guards escorting the princess in their minds were beginning to wonder whether or not the princess had gone mad. Where was she going? What was her plan? It was never their duty to question the competency of the princess, nor was it their job to do anything else except for keep her safe. And for that reason, they continued by her side with no questions asked. The princess was driven in a direction as if an unnatural force was beckoning her with purposeful meaning. In fact, this could not have been any closer to the truth, for she was driven by an unnatural force that was leading her final destination in which nobody yet knew. As the story goes, the princess was pregnant. She had been for 9 months and was going to deliver her baby any day now. In such a condition, only extreme measures would lead someone in her situation to make a journey like this. The child she was believed to be carrying in her womb was none other than the genetic offspring of the Dark Elf, who had liberated Foster City from the Frost Giants several months prior to date, after which the Dark Elf was never seen again. It is not known the means of conception, for there was never any intimate contact between the princess and the Dark Elf. Immaculate conception would be out of the question, as that would not have been possible. But somehow, the Dark Elf was able to impregnate the princess against her will by some means artificially. Only days after the Dark Elf had left Foster City, there was a noticeable change in the king's personality and attitude towards everything. Even the princess could feel this change in herself. But the one thing it was different about the princess, as she was protected by an old lady, stayed by her side from that day until the day they landed ship at the border of the Valley of Giants. This old lady who stayed by the side of the princess, she was more than just an old lady. She was a powerful magic user, a witch of high level. The witch already knew long ago of the Dark Elf's coming, and she knew of his intentions, but could do nothing to stop him. The Dark Elf was far more powerful than she was, so she intended to devise a plan of her own, one of deception, and she would never, ever reveal her true identity. And now, back into the Valley of Giants, as the princess made her onward journey with the guard escorts. They did not rest during the day, not at all. Only when the nighttime came did they set up camp and get some kind of broken sleep. And that is an overstatement. The old lady had a name, Pelia, and it is unknown at this time where she came from. Pelia came to be in the service of the King James Foster III approximately 6 months before the arrival of the Dark Elf, and also before the arrival of the Frost Giants. In hindsight, one might have put 2 and 2 together and realized that it may very well have been possible that the Dark Elf was in cahoots with these Frost Giants. One could argue that the giants were only serving as mercenaries and perhaps waiting to be paid by the Dark Elf. Possible. In any case, that theory was quickly put to rest when the Dark Elf returned to the king with the 3 severed heads. If he had been in dealings with these giants, then his betrayal of them had gone unnoticed by the king, and of course the poor unsuspecting giants. A devious plan indeed. During the time Pelia was in the king's service, she was soon assigned to care for the needs of the princess, which, by the way, was not a coincidence, as Pelia did have some unnatural influential pull in the matter. In short, Pelia had intentionally placed herself in the service of the princess, as she had the ability to see certain events that had not yet come to pass. As not to reveal too much information about Pelia, who she is, or what her purpose may really serve, these things will be revealed to you as the story continues on. As I mentioned earlier, that Pelia would never reveal her identity, and for that reason, and respect to her plan, her personal information would not be revealed at this time. It may seem sinister that after caring for the princess for approximately 15 months, Pelia, as part of her own plan to save the unborn child of the Princess Anarus, may very well have, more or less, sent the princess to what may have been her certain, utter demise. Now, more than 3 days had passed, or maybe it was 4 days. They weren't really sure, but at this point it didn't really matter because there was no point in turning back, as there was nothing to go back to. Thick clouds of fog hovered overhead almost the entire time, and for this reason visibility was limited to only short distances. Only once, however, did the sun, or perhaps what they thought was the sun, did it set into the horizon. Only once did night fall. But after that night, when they returned to their journey once more, things were very different. On this day, it was as if the sun would not set into the horizon. As a matter of fact, there was no way of knowing where the sun actually was due to the thick fog that was constantly overhead. Yes, there was some light, so one could assume that it might have been the sun. But the sun did not set on this day. As they approached the snow-topped mountains, fatigue was beginning to set in. There was an abrupt change in the temperature, and the rocky terrain that surrounded them soon began to change into icy ground, or rocky tundra. It had quickly become quite cold. Fortunately for them, they were prepared, so they put on some extra clothing and continued on their expedition.